Okay, I'm sure you just want to know, like, how did I meet? Like, what's the story? Who's this guy? All those different types of things. So this video is for you. We met in March of this year, started dating in August, and because of him, I'm going to be a pastor of Kaleo PHX. And so I want to kind of give you a little bit more detail on that story. So the first thing is, I have a really good friend named Vanessa from Philadelphia who came in town in the end of February to meet out, hang out, and just have a good time. So I took a couple days off work. We went to the Grand Canyon. We just enjoyed each other's company, and I, just wanted to show her a good time. So at the end of her weekend here being with us, I thought it would be fun if she could meet some of my friends. So I invited my friend Jenna, Delicia, and Tor Holly to dinner at Joyride Tacos, which is one of my favorite places. None of them could make it except Tor. So it was me, Tor, my friend Vanessa from out of town, and also my sister and brother-in-law. Tor comes, shows up, and we just started talking, having a good time, and she winds up saying that she's vetting this guy for me named Kendall. And I was like, first of all, we've been friends for a minute. Why is this the first time I'm hearing about this? Second of all, what do you mean you've been vetting him for me? Like, what? Like, we've never talked about this. And you're saying it in front of my family and friend you've never met. That's interesting. My family doesn't let me look at his photo. They're like kind of stalking him on Instagram, but my sister knows me. It's like, don't show her. Just let her go on the date, set it up, blah, blah, blah. She winds up connecting us over text that night. So as soon as she got home, she put me and Kendall in a text and says, hey, I just, I think you guys would be great for each other. I think you should meet. Okay, bye. And that was it. Kendall texts me separately and winds up inviting me to coffee/tea, because he doesn't like coffee, at Songbird Cafe that same Saturday. So I was nervous, to be honest. Like, my heart's racing. I've never been on a blind date before. Most of the dates I've been on, I've known the guy, or I've seen him at church or met him through another friend or something like that. And also, this is Tor setting me up on a blind date. I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. But what most people don't know, I was able to pick up on the fact that his name was Kendall, and also I saw from a distance what his Instagram feed looked like. So later I just looked up to Kendall, and of course he came up because he's friends with Tor, and just started stalking him. I'm like, okay, we'll see how this goes. So I think I was more nervous because I knew what he looked like, and I knew like what he did. I knew kind of how old he was, stuff like that. So I was like, we'll see. My first impression of him, he had this blue, like fashion forward jean cap on. He had this like almost like rugged purple tie-dye shirt on, and like black jeans and like sandals, I think. But I immediately noticed how much of a people person he was. People in line would just like look at him and just smile, which it was just different. So I'm like, he's like a people guy, and people like this guy. So we went up sitting outside, and he's asking me about my ministry story, about what I do. And so I tell him the whole thing, and vice versa. And at the end of it, he winds up praying over me, which has never happened before. I sent such like a peace about him, and just like, I like him enough to want to keep getting to know him, but I'm not sure like how he feels or what he thinks and stuff like that. He winds up calling me and telling me, just so I not really looking to date anybody right now, but I think you're really cool and would still like to get to know you, stuff like that. Immediately my heart sinks, because I'm like, of course, everybody thinks I'm cool. I think you're cool. We're all cool. Like, you're friend zoning me right now, and I don't like it. But you know what? Whatever. So I just wound up telling him, that's fine. I totally get it. My dad's always told me, you gotta be friends first anyway. So, which made me feel better, because it is kind of awkward when you go on a blind date and then you're like, so do we have to start dating now? It's like, you gotta be friends first anyway. At this date, Kendall winds up telling me like, hey, would you ever pastor one day? Do you think you would? And I'm like, nah, I really have a great job. I love my job. I just started a business with my best friend. I also have a podcast. Like, I'm not really trying to do anything else right now. I'm really happy with what I'm doing. I just want to do more of it. And he said, well, okay, my mentor, Chris Townley, just planted a church with a friend of his, and they're looking for a female minority pastor to join their team. And then I was like, bro, we're on a date right now and I feel like you're interviewing me for a job. I don't want the job, but I kind of want to get to know you. So he invites me to check out the service, and if I go, he'll go with me. So I'm like, bet, that makes sense. So we go to Kaleo service that weekend. I really am intrigued with the service, because it's all centered around the table and conversation and people gathering, and I've never seen a church service done this way. So then I wind up meeting Chris, having coffee with him, and kind of interviewing him a bit more about the church. And I thought, it'd be cool to just even interview on my podcast just about the church culture and stuff like that. So I did that. Over time, this past summer, the racial tension in America has drastically increased. So just a tug on my heart to do something more when it comes to justice and equality wound up happening in me. And I felt like God was just tugging on my heart. Like, I feel like Kaleo is the church for me to be a part of, and this is the first time I've ever chosen a church for myself as an adult. I've always just kind of, wherever my parents was going, that's where I was gonna go, and never really chose a place for me. And so this was something that I've been praying about for a while, like where do I want to go? Because I do value going to church with my parents, because when you work in a church, you don't always get to sit down and enjoy the service with your family. So that's something that I've always valued and will continue to value and will continue to practice when I can. But I just knew Kaleo was the best next step for me. I wound up just letting Chris know, like, hey, I know that you guys were looking for somebody. I don't know what to say except that I feel like God is saying yes. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't even know what the next steps are. I just want you to know, like, I want to be a part of Kaleo and what you guys are doing in the community here, because the things that they were talking about were things I wasn't hearing from other people. Like, what does justice look like in the church? Being able to name the police brutality and the injustices that have happened to George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and so many others, and not shy away from it. And that's something that this church community was doing that I had never really seen before, because most times churches have to be political and we can't say those terms. We can fit it under this umbrella, but we can't really address it in this way and that way. So anyways, that's the Kaleo story. And now, fast forward to now, in January, I'm going to be joining Kaleo as a pastor, and that would have never happened if Vanessa didn't come to town. It would have never happened if we didn't go to Joyride and invite Tor. It would have never happened if she didn't set us up on a blind date, and it would have never happened if that weekend I did not go to Kaleo, because shortly thereafter the pandemic happened and they were no longer meeting. So I went to one of the last in-person services that Kaleo had, and there never would have been that relationship building and all of those things. Probably wondering, like, why did it take so long for me to say something? Well, it's taken me so long to even post about him because I've never been in such a serious relationship before. And before I started posting about him, I wanted to know that I know that he's the guy I want to be with. And just, I wanted to be sure. And over time, like, I'm super sure that he's the guy I want to marry. And because it's risky to be in a relationship, and there's still no guarantees, but I just wanted my heart to be sure. I wanted to be sure before I made it public. Also, the story of him is so unique in that he is how I'm becoming a pastor. He's what led me to pastoring. So the significance of that, it's like I can't talk about Kaleo without also talking about Kendall, and I don't want to talk about Kendall unless I'm really sure about Kendall. So there's those nuances too. So how did I know that Kendall was the guy for me? Well, what's interesting is right when I first started to get to know him, because of quarantine, he would text and say, hey, can we chat? Just want to catch up. And I would say, yeah. So we would wind up talking for hours about culture and community and church, and just his value system is so aligned with mine, I feel like, and I've never met anybody like that. And just what he wants to do with his life seems like so much of what I want to do with mine, and that means a lot to me. So 2 specific things that not a lot of people know. I haven't even really told anybody else this, but the first story is I have been interviewed twice by this lady on Instagram who found me randomly, lives in the UK. Her name is Madge, and she wanted to interview me for a second time just about how millennials in the church are handling the pandemic and COVID, and just to get my thoughts about that. So she interviewed me for this podcast. Mind you, I don't really know this woman. I've had 2 conversations with her, and that's about it though. Like, we support each other online. She is for me, I am for her, but that's about it. We have this interview on Zoom, and towards the end she says, I know we've never really talked about this before, but I just really sense that by the end of this year, you're gonna have an incredible testimony about a relationship in your life, if that's what you want. And I was like, yeah, that's what I want. And I just couldn't believe that she was saying that to me. And she then puts her hand up to the screen on Zoom in London and prays over me and prophesies over me that God would unlock a relationship for me, and that by the end of the year that I would have this story about that. So I wrote before the end of the year on my whiteboard here. I'll actually just show you so you can see. Before the end of the year, and that has been on my whiteboard since she told me that, and I've just kept that in front of me. And the only person I was really talking to at the time was Kendall. So I felt like, God, is this you saying that it's him? And then the other significant moment was when I first got to Phoenix, Arizona. I was going to my parents' church called Impact Church in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I was in a really interesting season. I just got let go from my church job in Illinois. I was crying a lot, praying a lot, journaling a lot, and just seeking God. So when I first got to this church, they had a young adult women's Bible study, and the book that we were reading together, I actually thought it was this one, but I'm gonna go grab it for you. So the book that we were reading together is called Lady in Waiting, if you could see that. And yeah, Becoming God's Best While Waiting for Mr. Right. This was the first Bible study I had participated in my new season of being here in Phoenix, Arizona. So these calls that I would get to from Kendall, he would call, and I would sit in my closet, because I have a big closet, and on the other side, I would lay down, put my feet up against my bookshelf that's in there. And one specific time while he was talking to me, I remember asking the Lord, like, Lord, is Kendall the guy for me or not? Because I don't want to waste my time or his time, but I'm asking you, is this the guy? And I felt like God said yes. And then I looked down, and on the bookshelf is this book, and if you can see, the author of the book is Kendall. And I had never noticed that before. And only God knows how significant that moment is for me. It was about relationships. And then the author of that book is called Kendall. And I that's like, how did I not see that? So I'm like, God, only you would know that would be a way for you to get my attention and remind me that you're hearing me, that you're guiding every step, and that he is somebody that should be in my life. And so I'm super grateful for him. And that is the story of how we met.
Hey everyone, it's nice to meet you all over video. I hope to meet you in person or virtually someday. But my name's Kendall Dooley. I was born in Hickory, North Carolina. I like to claim there, but I actually grew up in a city called Cedar Rapids, Iowa, out in the Midwest. I came out here to Phoenix, Arizona in 2015 to go to Arizona State University, where I studied criminal justice criminology. And I am currently a youth pastor in this city, studying at a seminary, studying the Master of Arts in Missional Theology right now. My first impression of Erin Lashley was sitting down with this beautiful looking girl and realizing, man, like, this girl gets it, that we're passionate about similar things, we talk about similar stuff, we had a lot of similar interests. I'm like, this girl and I just vibe really well together. and she was extra wise. I was like, I have so much to learn from this person. I thought Erin would be a pretty cool fit with Kaleo because a lot of the stuff that she talked about, she seems really passionate about conversation, sitting at the table, which I know is Kaleo is all about, that bringing different people together to set the table to have a conversation about things. And also, I knew that Erin was wanting something a little bit different than just the average stereotypical kind of like church. She's done that, she's been there, and she was seeking something a little bit different and believed that God was maybe calling the church to be something different in this time, and she wanted to answer that call. And I was like, Kaleo's doing that, you're talking about that, let's see if we can just mesh you all together. Why do I think Erin is the girl for me? Well, honestly, I probably don't deserve Erin, honestly. Not only because she is beautiful and great looking, but one of the words that come to mind when I think of Erin Lashley is generous. And she's an extremely generous person. She's generous with her time, she's generous with her talents, she's generous with her finances even. She's a generous person that I don't think I deserve really at all. I remember we were having a dinner with a family. The wife and the couple had mentioned that she would like a rice cooker. And guess what? The next day, Erin bought them a rice cooker. I'm like, what? Who does that? A really generous person does that. And so I am so lucky and so blessed to be in a relationship with someone as awesome and as generous as Erin. One of my favorite stories about Erin reflects and speaks to her optimism and her bright lookout on life. I remember we traveled up north in a city called Strawberry, if you've ever been there before, a cool little town. Right outside of it was this cool kind of like bridge that we were trying to check out, but it was closed that day, so we're just walking around this park, and there's this water stream that's flowing, and it's like clear, it's beautiful, and Erin's like, oh, this water looks so awesome. She's getting ready to go touch it, and I'm looking at the water, and I'm like, it's like this water is like connected to a building, which in my head was like, is this like a sewer stream connected to the toilets? Is where my head went. I was like, this is sewer water. But Erin's looking at this water like, oh, this water is so clear, it's so awesome, it's so beautiful, I want to go and touch it. And something about that moment for me was like, man, I love her outlook and her optimism in life. I feel like it probably balances me out sometimes in my critical and sometimes cynical view on things. That's one of my favorite stories about Erin, but I got tons of them.
So the last thing I'll say is, with my new job, with being a pastor with Kaleo in the city of Phoenix, one of the things that I have to do is fundraise. So if you would like to support me in this new season of being a part of Kaleo as a pastor, I would invite you to give a donation, large or small. It really does make a difference, and you can do that at the button below or go to KaleoPHX.com. Another thing that I'm doing is, as I'm going to be pastor, I'm going to be making a lot more content. So I'm just going to be doing some bonus content for my podcast, and if you'd like to be a part of my Patreon, I invite you to do that too. You can do that for as low as $5 a month. So thanks for watching, thanks for being a part of this journey with me, and definitely more to come.
Such a joy to have you in my life. One touch from you feels just like paradise. Through ups and downs you made the sacrifice. For that, thank you, baby. Don't think people really understand. Because of you